Wasabi guys, welcome back to another Commander Pickups video, the series where I recommend some cards to those of you who are looking for cheap but ultimately playable cards. For the early part of October 2022, we have plenty of cards that are dirt cheap from Dominaria United, and I think it's great that they're cheap because we have the Brothers War right around the corner. A lot of spoilers, you have a lot of stuff like the Transformer crossover crap, Warhammer 40k, there's an oversaturation of random stuff being released this time of the year, so I'm really focused on what's playable in Commander or what at least has a lot of potential. Most of these are going to be under a couple dollars, and there's only one that kind of breaks that rule, but I'll explain that when we get to that later. The first one is Roberan Mercenaries. This is from the Commander product. If you're a fan of Necrotic Ooze, this is in a similar way going to function like a Necrotic Ooze, where it's focused on borrowing activated abilities from something else. This is a bit more specific and, in my opinion, a lot harder to satisfy, seeing as you have to have the legendary creatures on the field in order for this to even matter. That being said, for only 30 cents, this is a very low-risk, high-reward card. It automatically combos with Kiki-Jiki. Since this human mercenary is not a legendary human mercenary, you can just keep using the copied Kiki-Jiki ability to get another copy of it. The untapped copy of Roberan Mercenaries can continue copying itself, which will net you infinite tapped creatures. We even have some interesting ones. I think Sylvala's my favorite. If you want to include her in a deck, getting that activated ability twice is pretty cool. Do keep in mind though that Necrotic Ooze was never really a super expensive card, and I think that card is much better than this. So I'm not going to recommend cards because I think they're easy flips. I recommend cards because I think they have a lot of value to offer to the Commander format. Next we have one that is more speculation than anything, but Emperor Myhail II, this 3-mana Merfolk Noble, is around $1.80. It's not pennies, it's one of the more expensive ones you're going to see here, which isn't saying much because they're all pretty cheap, but it's a solid Merfolk for Merfolk Tribal, and Merfolk Tribal in Commander is pretty underwhelming. Those of you might know that Merfolk, they're one of the classic tribes of Magic the Gathering. They go back all the way to Alpha, and they really shine more so outside of the Commander format. We've made Goblins great in Commander, we've made Elves great in Commander, we've made Dragons great in Commander, Vampires are great in Commander. Merfolk, it seems Wizards has tried and failed a couple times to make them that impactful in the format. The closest we got, I would say, is Rivals of Ixalan. The reason why I say this is mostly speculation is that you're not spending that much on a pretty good value Merfolk card that you could totally see in the average Merfolk tribal deck if that were to become a bigger thing in Commander. In Dominaria United, we also received support for Elves and Goblins. We know those two aren't going away, so Wizards, they like to improve tribes. They like to make tribal support encouraging to players if they've never played that tribe before. So I can see it coming. I can see us receive a big-time Merfolk upgrade, like a legit Merfolk Commander that will take advantage of everything we've received up to this point. This extends to pretty much any Merfolk that you might be able to pick up that is also similarly under $5, but is going to put in work with that tribe. Next we have the phasing of Zelphir. Under $1, around 80 cents. This one is a bit surprising to me because it's basically a Wrath of God in blue. You have a straight up creature board wipe that, yes, it will replace those creatures with 2/2 Phyrexian creatures, but it's still going to be a board wipe that destroys all creatures, which is something that blue didn't have before. It's mostly the color that either bounces problem creatures or has some decent targeting removal that'll either destroy them or exile them. What makes this saga so great, and I think it's a reason why it's a sleeper, is that it has read ahead. So I'm afraid maybe there are a lot of people who just look at this and treat it like any other saga without realizing that you don't have to go through the first or second lore counter. You can go straight to number 3 and get that 4-mana board wipe, putting it pretty much in that same territory as a Wrath of God. I like this for blue decks in general. Again, I don't recommend because I think you can flip cards like these. I recommend cards on the basis of playability and future playability. Next we have Defiler of Dreams. This is one of those cards that I think everybody agreed was a top 10 Commander card from Dominaria United. So being only $1.20 is a steal. I think it's gone down because people have realized that blue isn't the color where you cast a lot of permanents. If you want the payoff to draw cards in this color, you're going to want it off of instants and sorceries. That's just what makes blue faster. Above everywhere else, I think this obviously has a place in Commander, and I knew if the Defilers didn't have a home in Standard or Pioneer, they were going to be solid additions to many Commander decks. You get the great cost alternative here. It could reduce the cost of total mana, so instead of paying a blue, you could pay 2 life, and depending on how you view it, it has possibly the best payoff out of all the Defilers. Next, we have our first black card, Activated Sleeper. Only 53 cents for this Flash Graveyard clone. I understand it has to be a creature that was put into a graveyard from the battlefield in the same turn, but still for only 3 mana in mono black, this has a potential that I think is unrealized by many. This does combo with a lot of graveyard return creatures, ones like Karmic Guide, Sun Titan, Safi Eric's Daughter, so throw it into Carador Ghost Chieftain, Marin of Clan Neltoth. There are a lot of decks where this is just insanely powerful. And it's a lot like this next card, Braidser is a Nightmare. We've talked about this one a bunch. I've talked about it maybe in some ways that upset people and they didn't understand what I was talking about. When I compared it to Shattergang Brothers, I said in a sense, it takes the strategy and makes it more efficient. There's an element of efficiency to power creep that I don't think people talk about enough. So when I was saying that this is a power creep of Shattergang Brothers, I was talking about the abilities and the efficiency of costs. If you don't have to pay as much mana, if you don't have to spread out to 3 different colors, it makes your card a lot more competitive. So for only $1.65, this is another steal. People freaked out and thought that I said this is the new Shattergang Brothers too, but I noticed they also didn't freak out when I compared it to Phyrexian Arena when it comes to card draw and value, because I also did that as well. You see, sometimes folks will look at images and they'll automatically arrive at their own conclusions. Listen to what I am saying. Efficiency-wise, this card is a massive upgrade over alternatives, and it fits into several decks. Even if you're not an aristocrat-focused deck, you're going to have some creature token, some artifact treasure token that you can sacrifice, forcing your opponents to either sacrifice a permanent of the same type, or to allow you to draw a card and they lose 2 life. You don't have to lose any life, they do. It's ridiculously powerful, it does so much. It's a 3/3 for 3 mana as well. Maybe the best card from that entire set. Next we have Threats Undetected. We joked about this card because it's basically a green Gifts Ungiven, has similar artwork, has a similar name. For what it does, it's not going to be as good because you do have to search up creatures, so you're not going to get like the best combo pieces, but if your deck does require to combo with a couple creatures, and if you have a very flexible combo where it could be with multiple different pieces, I think this card is going to benefit you the most at only 63 cents. Green creature tutors in Commander are pretty sought after. For 3 mana, you get 2 of them. They do have to be different powers, which is the biggest downside to this. It's not just that they're creatures, it's that you have to make sure that if you are looking to combo, if you are looking to get 2 of the best creatures, that they don't have the same exact power, which I think is pretty easy to avoid. If you are a creature heavy deck, you're probably playing 40 to 50, making that pretty easy to play around. Next, we have the most expensive card in the video, Defiler of Vigor, $4.96. I think that is a steal for what it does. I mean, this was projected to be one of the best cards in the entire set, and I still believe it is. It has a lot of the same upside with the other Defilers where it has that cost alternative, but it's in the color where you're the most likely to cast permanents in green. Just play a lot of other green creatures and you're getting a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. That is just busted. Even if you don't have a way to combo with this, even if you don't have a way to take advantage of +1/+1 counters, just understand that for only 5 mana you're getting a 6/6 with trample. So it only really takes a few creatures to make this a massive threat. So again, it's the one that's the most expensive here, but it is technically under $5. And I think even if you're someone who likes to explore outside of Commander, I would say Pioneer. This has some long-term playability. Then we have the World Spell, which is another saga. Again, it has read ahead, which does make this better than your typical saga from before. It's got a great first and second chapter, where you can get through your deck a little bit quicker if you need to get to your next spells. Its third chapter is the best though, because it's the closest thing that we're going to get to another Tooth and Nail without actually getting Tooth and Nail. You put up to 2 non-saga permanent cards from your hand onto the battlefield. For only $1.13, I think it's a great value mythic, so they'd either jump straight to it or maybe just go for the second chapter. That way they at least get another card to their hand. And if this is the only saga in your deck, you're probably going to get at least something. It doesn't have that tutor strength of Tooth and Nail, but its first and second chapters do at least guarantee you will get through your deck. And the final Commander pickups card for October 2022 is Ratadrabic of Urborg. Only 43 cents. I think this is one of those Commander options from Dominaria United that is the most flexible, in my opinion. You have so many directions you can take this card. You have Zombie Tribal, of course, but reading that third part, everyone realized, wait a minute, it's a lot better if you focus on legendaries. So it has that going for it. We still don't have the Brothers War, but we've seen some spoilers. All I can say is, I think it's very likely. I talked about how there is a potential for Emperor Myhail. I think there's even more potential for a lot of these legendary creature-themed Commander options from Dominaria. So if we get something that we can take advantage of even further in that set, I mean, it's right around the corner in November. Something like this could go up significantly. It's more of an aristocrat-themed card too, so it's not absolutely married to the legendary theme. So long as your commander is a good one, you could throw Ratadrabic in any black and white aristocrats deck. It's got that word of 2, which is something that we're seeing more and more often. Commanders with a way of protecting themselves, or at least a line of protection, making the average targeting spell another 2 mana more expensive, does make a difference in the early game. So anyway, that's going to do it for these commander pickups. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Let me know of any cards that you think are great value right now for the price you have to pay for them. Commander Void here signing off. I will see you all next time.